That's good. Get started. All right. Welcome everyone to Faith and Place's first monthly call. My name is Elena Candler. I use they, them pronouns. I'm Faith and Place's Deputy Director. Our Executive Director, Reverend Brian Sauter, is on vacation on a beach with his new baby twins. So he is not here with us, or I'm sure he would be giving this greeting, but I am excited that all of y'all could join us tonight. So we were inspired by our Indiana team, who's been hosting monthly calls for a while, to do it ourselves across the organization. And we hope that this will be an inspiring time where we can all connect. We can share what's going on with Faith in Place, what resources we have going on, if we have new grants, ways to get involved and hear from you, what's going on in your communities, what are ways that we can change our programming, bring our programming to you in a way that's supportive. So we're gonna try this. It's new, but this is our first one, and we're gonna meet each month and see how we can continue growing this. We'll have different speakers each month, different themes. So this is just our kickoff theme to get everyone familiar. So yeah, I think that is the overview. For any of you that are joining this call and aren't familiar with Faith in Place, maybe you are connected through Hoosier Interfaith Power and Light or Wisconsin Interfaith Power and Light. Faith in Place empowers people of diverse faiths and spiritualities to be leaders in advancing environmental and racial justice, providing resources to educate, connect, and advocate for healthier communities. So if you have any questions or any issues technically during the call, feel free to just chat, and one of the Faith in Place staff team members will be happy to help. So given that, I am going to turn it over to Kira Dalt, who is our illustrious communications director, and Kira will be setting the stage for our meeting by going over some of our norms.
Thank you, Elena. Can you all hear me? I'm just making sure. Okay, great. So in this space, in Zoom, we are gathered together to celebrate and to be inspired together. And so we're setting some norms so that we can all enjoy and participate in this space safely. So our norms, which are inspired by our staff meeting norms that we use each week. So we gather, we always review our norms, and then we have productive meetings. So first is respect. Just remember that we are a multi-faith community. And then we listen to understand. We don't always have clear answers to questions or ambiguity. Take space and make space. So we hold space for everyone's lived experience. We all come from different contexts. And so we acknowledge that we're all coming to this from those contexts, and that goes along with our norm of respect. While we are on Zoom, please, when you're not speaking, keep your mic on mute. You're welcome to join us on video or not, as you are comfortable. And sorry, just be aware that we are recording this so that we can share it with people who maybe are not able to join us tonight. And then, of course, ask for help. You are welcome to chat in the general chat. If you have troubles, you can also message my account, Faith in Place, if you need any assistance. But please don't hesitate to reach out and ask for help if you need it. Thanks. And now I'm going to pass the mic to Liz Ferguson, who is our development coordinator, to give our land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Kira, and welcome everyone. I am Liz, a development coordinator here at Faith in Place, and I'm pleased to share with you a land acknowledgement honoring the ancestral heritage of the land on which I stand this evening. I am calling you today from what is today known as Logan Square in Chicago, Illinois. Chicago is the traditional homeland of the Council of the Three Fires, the Odawa, Ojibwe, and Potawatomi nations. Many other tribes like the Miami, Ho-Chunk, Menominee, Sac, and Fox also call this area home. I invite you to drop in the chat where you're calling from and the ancestral heritage of that land. You can use the link native land to begin answering questions about whose land you reside on and how you are benefiting by living on this land that is the traditional territory of Indigenous peoples. This acknowledgement from Faith in Place demonstrates a commitment to continue the process to dismantle the ongoing legacies of settler colonialism. We acknowledge these native nations are still present among us and intend to work with them as we move forward. Our aim is to become a vibrant, inclusive community with environmental justice at the core of our efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, Liz. Okay, thank you everyone that's sharing in the chat where you are calling in from. And now I'm going to pass it over to, is Wade Halva on, and he will be offering our invocation. And continue, please, chatting where you're calling in from.
I am indeed here. I'm Wade Halva. I'm our Southern Illinois Outreach Coordinator. And what has been on my mind and on my desk at Faith in Place this last week has been the grid. And the grid is how energy flows from one place to another. And right now we're struggling with the grid in Ameren territory. But that made me think, as we gather tonight, where is our energy flowing from? From where do we draw joy? To whom do we send joy? How are we all connected? Those connections are things we often overlook. And so as you are a part of our evening tonight, I invite you to consider who is on your network. Who do you need to reconnect with? Who do you need to share joy with? And who always brings joy into your life? Let us begin this evening with just a pause for a moment as we think about those things. All right, Elena, I will turn it back to you.
Thank you, Wade. And thanks everyone for sharing through the chat. Okay, so next up, I am going to provide a quick update on Faith in Place. We've had quite the spring, so I'll share a little bit about where we're at. And then later in the call, we'll do breakout rooms. So if you have more questions about how it pertains to you, your green team, your region, feel free to talk with your outreach coordinator or director. So Faith in Place in February, I'm sure you've seen the announcement by now, we merged with Hoosier Interfaith Power and Light and Wisconsin Interfaith Power and Light. And so we were all part of the National Interfaith Power and Light Network. We had very similar missions, and now we're going to be working together to bring advocacy, education, connection around environmental justice issues in Indiana, Wisconsin, and Illinois. So we have staff on tonight that have joined us from the Wisconsin and the Indiana team. And since February, we've all been working together to integrate all of our programming, our outreach, our strategy. We are super excited because we have 2 new hires. We have a policy coordinator, Alexander, who just joined our team, and he is based in Madison, Wisconsin. And then we had someone who hasn't started yet, but is going to be starting soon, based out of Gary, Indiana, who will be doing outreach. And we are growing our team both in Wisconsin and Indiana. So if you are based in either of those states or have networks or connections in those states, Kira just chatted, we have 2 positions that we are still hiring for. So please feel free to review those positions and share the job descriptions with your team, as we are hiring for a outreach coordinator based in Milwaukee, Wisconsin, and a policy coordinator based anywhere in Indiana. So we are continuing to grow our team, and once we have that team and staff capacity, we'll be bringing more of Faith in Places programming to those 2 states. And then we also have amazing team members that have joined from Wisconsin IPL and Hoosier IPL, joined the original Faith in Place staff team, and we're all working together now to bring environmental justice and advocacy education across our 3 states. So that is a quick update and rundown of a lot of months of effort and work. A couple other things I will highlight is that we have advisory boards based in Indiana and Wisconsin, and the members of those boards are providing guidance as we learn about new audiences, where programs match, how to communicate. So we are very grateful for, if anyone on this call is on those advisory boards, thank you for helping provide so much wisdom to us. And then I also wanted to just flag, if you're originally from Hoosier Interfaith Power and Light or Wisconsin Interfaith Power and Light, in the coming month, you'll probably be receiving all communications through Faith in Place. And all 3 of our websites will be combined into faithinplace.org, and all of our social media will be combined into @faithinplace. So if you haven't already, go ahead and follow @faithinplace, Facebook, Instagram, etc. And then just expect that you'll see emails and messages coming from Faith in Place, but that is our combined effort, and we're now working in your community. And yeah, so let's see, just a reminder, the link is in the chat for the 2 job descriptions. So if you know anyone, please feel free to share. And we are still interviewing and searching for those 2, and very excited for the new team members we have added. With that, I am going to turn it over to Pastor O, who's going to provide an advocacy update for us. So Pastor Onque, are you on? Pastor Onque,
yes.
Awesome. Pastor Onque is our policy director working in all 3 states. He just drove to Madison yesterday to welcome our new policy coordinator on. Pastor Onque has a quite the personable and long history working with legislators in Illinois, and has worked to ensure equity is at the core of our climate legislation, and will be providing an update for everyone here on our policy work. Pastor O.
Great, thank you, Elena, and welcome everyone to our monthly meeting. We are super excited that this will be an ongoing practice, that we'll get together at least once a month to talk about what's going on at Faith in Place. And so as the policy director, I just want to give you this quick update. We're not in session right now, and we're waiting for veto session to actually begin. And so there's not a lot about passing legislation, but we are currently doing a lot of heavy lifting around implementation of legislation. And one of the big pieces of legislation in Illinois was the Climate Equitable Jobs Act, which was one of the most forward-leading pieces of legislation to address climate change in all of these United States. And so when we think about that piece of legislation, we have 4 pillars that we are continuing to work on: electrification of vehicles, jobs, and economics, which will allow 13 workforce hubs to be set up throughout the state of Illinois, so that we'll have entrepreneur incubator hubs. Also, so we'll be training people to embrace the whole renewable energy idea. Also, we're looking at the complete transition out of fossil fuel dependency. We have a date now for the final fossil fuel plant to close in 2045, which will be downstate. But in the meantime, we are working with just transition subcommittees to make sure all the things that happen around transitioning out of fossil fuel, again, will be equitable, and to make sure that people are treated right. And then all the resources that are available in this piece of legislation are available to those that are transitioning out of the fossil fuel industry. And then also in our efforts to be a climate-friendly organization or state, we're working with our solar and energy efficiency. And so there's a lot to do around those things. So also in this upcoming season. We are excited about what's going to happen in the electoral process. And so we're always looking for that. We're going to be doing workshops to encourage people to get out to vote. That is so important. We love people that vote because you vote your interests, and you vote for what happens in your own community. And then as we have merged into the Indiana and Wisconsin market, we are super excited about our policy coordinator in the Wisconsin area. And then also we're very close. So if you really know somebody who wants to be a policy coordinator in the state of Indiana, they would have to get their resume in really fast, because I'm really close to making a decision. So we are hoping that that will happen. Our team includes Christina Kroos, who is the senior policy coordinator in Illinois, and Alexander Malco, who is the coordinator in Wisconsin. And we're looking forward to the position to be filled in Indiana. And then we'll have a good working team to do all things advocacy as we continue to branch out. And thank you so much for your time. And I hope you appreciate this update.
Thanks, Pastor O. Pastor O always keeps us up to date on everything happening in Springfield and now expanding into Wisconsin and Indiana. All right, so next up is Reverend Veronica Johnson. And Veronica is Faith and Places Outreach Director and comes to us with a rich history of working for environmental justice. And she has experience doing consulting, inspirational speaking, motivation. She's a very inspiring person to hear from. And I know what she will share tonight will be very uplifting. And not only does Veronica serve as Faith and Places Outreach Director, she also serves as co-pastor of Hyde Park Union Church, located in Chicago, Illinois, and has a passion for healing and violence prevention as well. So with that, I will turn it over to Veronica.
Thank you. Good evening, everyone. Thank you all so much for joining us today. Can you hear me? Somebody wave at me. Elena, I see you.
Yep.
Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. As we were preparing for this evening, our first monthly call, we first of all certainly noticed the date that we are coming upon a national holiday, Juneteenth, the second year for this national holiday. Certainly we are excited about that. And we're also just reflecting on how we are sure so many of us are feeling. There's been so much terrible, really horrible news in the news. I won't even name it today. Today, I'm committed to good news. So I won't name it in detail, but we all know that it affects us all, that trauma is real, that exhaustion from all bad news has an impact on us. And so we wanted to use this opportunity to talk about what do we do in the midst of so much bad news, to take care of ourselves, to remain healthy, mentally, spiritually, physically. How do we keep a bright outlook? How do we maintain hope, especially those of us who are in this work of environmental justice and racial justice and all the other justices? We have to maintain a sense of hope in order to have energy to do the work that we need to do, and not just energy, but to be of the mind to do the work, and that all of our creative juices are flowing and we're able to function, that we don't get paralyzed by everything that is happening, that is coming at us. So we decided to focus today on good news. I'm excited to offer this for you today because it is a personal quest of mine. I've been through quite a bit, as so many of you have. And I am determined to begin to really highlight the good news. And so with that, in the spirit of Juneteenth, I hope that this presentation is of good service to you. Juneteenth is June 19th. Most of us know, and for many years, related the freedom of those who were enslaved to the Emancipation Proclamation, which was signed by President Lincoln in January 1st of 1863. And many of us were taught that the Emancipation Proclamation is what freed those who were enslaved. And then we started hearing Juneteenth, and I don't remember exactly when. I know it wasn't when I was a child, right? I didn't hear about Juneteenth until I was well into my adult years, probably only 5 or 7 years ago or something like that. But Juneteenth is commemorating June 19th, 1865, when Union Army, General Gordon, Gordon Granger, proclaimed a freedom for those who were enslaved in Texas, because Texas was the last state of the Confederacy with institutional slavery. So about 2.5 years after the Emancipation Proclamation, Juneteenth is acknowledging when all who were in what is now these United States of America were proclaimed to be free from slavery. It was celebrated, and this was known in many parts of Texas, and it was celebrated as such, and it began to spread, and look how long it took to really spread from 1865 all the way to 2021 when President Biden signed it into law. And so now Juneteenth is a federal holiday. We recognize it this coming Monday, as many of us will be off work recognizing that federal holiday. And so to use this as kind of a launching pad to think about joy in the midst of, I first have to name that it's possibly not likely that everyone who was emancipated had joy, because there was fear, there was still threat, there were questions about how they would provide for themselves. There was so much that was a part of this horrible institution that simply being emancipated did not necessarily bring joy. However, we know that there has been much progress made. As I quote here, we have come over a way that with tears have been watered from what is known as the Black National Anthem, Lift Every Voice and Sing, right? That, and certainly the beautiful photos that are on the screen just shows those who are named and somehow became famous, if you will, but also just regular, ordinary people, many who worked tirelessly for both what they accomplished and what they sought to help others accomplish. One of the things that's wonderful in the African-American tradition is the ability to name first. Certainly that comes with this reality that there was not freedom at some point, but that certainly, I mean, I've had conversations with people who, so many people can name that somebody in their family did something as the first African-American, and that is just a sign of hope. It's a sign of just the ability to keep going despite the odds, despite the challenges, insurmountable challenges, the ability to focus, the ability to work together, to have community, to have strong families, strong culture, strong bonds. What you see here on this screen is just a small reflection of what has happened since, or I would say following Juneteenth, as African Americans worked tirelessly to get to where we are today with so much still to accomplish. But there is certainly a sense of joy, absolutely a sense of joy in looking at these amazing faces, and even the faces that you know, the families and the ordinary people who continue to do what they in some ways are called to do, continue to do what they love to do, try to enjoy life, still in the midst of much suffering. We know that in environmental work, much of the environmental injustice is in Black and Brown communities. And so we still have so much work to do. But we celebrate the joy that so many African Americans have. And my hope is that so many have, because this is American history. This is not simply owned by people of color or African Americans. This is American history. It is much for us all to celebrate. And so with that as our foundation, Let's celebrate some good news in the midst of, and you can fill in that blank, in the midst of whatever has been your sadness or your bad news over these several years. Let's celebrate some good news today. Why? Because good news rarely makes the news. As I was preparing for this, I ran across this quote: "No one reports when a plane takes off. They only and always report when one crashes." Think about that, right? The bad news, many equate that with news. Good news rarely makes the news. I was having a conversation with a dear gentleman who's a member of my church. He's about 90 years old. I called him for a pastoral check. And he said, "Pastor Veronica, it's just so much bad news. There's so much, and I'm sad." And he lives alone. And I said to him, "Mr. Porter, let me encourage you. I know so many people who are doing good work for justice. It doesn't make the news. But believe me, there are so many people, amazing people doing amazing work in many areas that we always see the bad news. It just simply doesn't make the news. But trust me and believe me that we are out here, we're doing great work, and it will show, and it is showing." And he said, "You made my day." And so in that spirit, we want to talk about good news today because it's rarely shared. We're bombarded with bad news all the time. There's plenty of good news to share. It does us well to think on good news. There's plenty of data out there that talks about, first of all, things like how looking at nature improves your outlook on life and even improves your sense of well-being, how it lowers your blood pressure and your blood rate, right? The same goes with receiving good news, that it does us well, that our bodies, our minds, our whole beings respond, that we've been designed as human beings to respond to good news. So it does us well to think on good news. And for those of us who are in this work of justice, it gives us strength for the journey. And so if you don't have a habit of taking in good news, my hope is after today, you begin to do so. I have a disclaimer here as I share this good news. Some of this is my good news, and then I'm going to encourage you to put your good news in the chat. So feel free to do that. But let's go through. We're going to talk about good news in all of these areas, and feel free to share your good news. First good news is that there's always good news in nature. And by that, I mean the beauty that you see when you open your eyes. I say that the God I believe in, gave us an amazing landscape to go about our day-to-day business. And so whatever your faith tradition is, however you believe nature came to be, it is amazing to have the amazing landscape that we have simply to go about our day-to-day activities. This in particular, these are pictures from a regional gathering for our staff at Faith in Place. We were down in Southern Illinois and Wade Halva's area of the state, and he took us to some amazing places. Heron Pond in the Cache River State Natural Area. Those first two pictures, trees taller than I knew existed in Illinois. The middle picture, there's a snake there. I don't know if you can see that snake, but we saw several snakes on our hike that day. And one of them caused us to pause for quite a while until we finally figured out what we were going to do next. That last picture is the Shawnee National Forest Sand Cave. This is a cave that is part of the Underground Railroad. And Wade was gracious to take us to this cave. It is near the border of Kentucky and Illinois. And I believe the story, and there's a link that's probably being put in the chat. There's a story about this cave in the Underground Railroad and how it was used for people to hide and find shelter. And it's an amazing, amazing boulder rock carved out as a cave. Looks almost like it was placed there on purpose to be shelter, literally in the time of storm, refuge for those who were seeking freedom. That is good news in nature, that nature is, we know that it is at risk, and that's why we do the work we do. It is still amazing, and looking at its amazement should give us strength for the journey, for the work that we are doing. Some good news I'll toss in there, the good news of awesome colleagues. This is not the entire Faith in Place staff. It's quite a few of us who were on that journey, standing in the midst of this amazing cave. And so I am grateful for having the good news of awesome colleagues. If you have good news for having a wonderful workplace, why don't you place it in the chat? Whatever that may be for you. If you have good news of what you love about nature, feel free to drop that in the chat. We'd love to see your good news, what you love about nature. I see some of you chatting. Awesome. Thank you. Thank you. We'll keep going. Good news about our families. So again, you know, I got presenter privilege. This is my good news. This is my son, Curtis Van Johnson, II, who graduated from UIC as a mechanical engineer just this past May. It looks like just yesterday I had him in a flower pot as a probably a 9-month-old or something, and now he's a young man with a degree in mechanical engineering. That's my good news. We have good news in our families always. The encouragement is to really think about the good news that we have and let it outweigh the bad news. So put in the chat your good news. Have you had anyone graduate this year? Have you had any weddings in your family? Any birthdays? Anybody's birthday today? Anybody celebrating anniversaries? New jobs, new homes? Let's see your family's good news. Good news, the family is gathering a new grandbaby. Awesome. Son is coming home to visit. Wonderful. Oh, awesome. You see, almost going to a family reunion this weekend. Wonderful. Little person just turned 3. Wonderful, Dory. Nephew just graduated. Awesome. 2 grandchildren graduated. Both have college scholarships. Look at the good news. Look at the good news. A small wedding in Saba's backyard. Awesome. Or we'll have a small backyard wedding. Say that differently. And Lauren's sister is coming to visit. See, we have good news, awesome news. I might get in trouble for showing the flower pot picture. So you all, you know, watch out for me. But thank you. Thank you for sharing your family's good news. Cousin sworn in as a judge in Minnesota. Amazing. 2 children just received doctorate degrees in the past 2 months. Thank you all so much for sharing your family's good news. Good news in environmental and climate justice. So I reached out to our staff. Anybody have ways to keep abreast of the good news in climate justice? And a few websites were sent to me. This one, dailyclimate.org/good-news will have good news reports for you as often as you want it. This one stuck out to me. Look at this good news. An electric aircraft just flew from New York to Arkansas. I didn't know they were working on electric airplanes. Amazing. This middle one really, really encouraged me. School buses are about to go electric across the US. I was driving behind a school bus the other day, and now that I work for Faith in Place, I'm really tuned in to where the exhaust, and when that happens, I see it and I smell it, and I am more attuned to it. And to see this good news, that part of the work that is happening and the funds that are coming from our federal government will do this work of turning school buses to electric vehicles across the country. Amazing news. Look for climate good news. We know we have so much work to do, but we have to look back and acknowledge the progress that has been made. And there are wonderful things happening. Because good news isn't reported, often we don't see it. So this website, which I hope was dropped in the chat, can give you climate justice good news. Similarly, this is good news in Illinois. Illinois regions related to CEJA. I've asked my colleague Wade, because this impacts his area in Southern Illinois in a special way. So I've asked him to share about this good news. Wade?
This is the coal to solar program, and they've announced the sites across the state And for those of us in far downstate, the Joppa plant, which was closed, is going to be an energy storage site. To put it in context, that county normally generates about $88 million of revenue a year, and this project is worth $40 million. That is good news for a community struggling with job loss, even as it's also good news for the climate moving out of coal.
Thank you, Wade. And we know so many, even on this call, have done work for CEJA. And so thank you for your work and for your efforts. It is bearing fruit. And this is great news for those communities that have been focused on the coal industry. And that change is in fact here and coming. Great news. Good news, Faith in Place events. We have some fun events coming up. This first one that is here, a smart energy treasure hunt. Find your path to save money, save energy, and protect the earth. A webinar on June 23rd. You can go to our website to register and please join us. And then Faith in Place's Double Dutch Fest. Yes, Double Dutch. Who used to jump Double Dutch? I did. To think about that brings me joy. To think about doing that on August 6th brings me even more joy. Looking forward to and hope you all join us at Big Marsh for the Double Dutch Fest on Saturday, August 6th. Should be a lot of fun. Princess is our leader for this event, and we will gladly welcome you, and whatever part you want to play, whether you're turning or whether you're jumping or whether you're enjoying the company, the vendors, the food, please come out and have a good time on Saturday, August 6th at Big Marsh, which is 11559 South Stony Island. Please register on our website. We look forward to seeing you. It's great to get outdoors again, and this event is one of our best and one of our favorites. Perpetual good news. As things continue in these times that we're in, think about those things that we have been gifted with, blessed with, that will always make us smile. Put in the chat right now what always makes you smile. For me, I've had ice cream on the screen. Ice cream is from heaven. I love ice cream. It always makes me smile. It's going to make a bad day turn good. What always makes you smile? Coffee, grandchildren, seeing what's in the garden. Yeah, absolutely. Teacup of ice cream every night. That sounds like a plan. Dogs, hugs, puppies, kittens, cats. What always makes you smile? Whatever that is, figure that out. The other thing that always makes me smile is music. And so our surprise this evening is we've got a little music from our DJ, Caesar. And I don't want you to just listen to the music. I want us to have a little 3-minute dance party. Come on, get ready to move. I might have to do this. Let me hold on one second. Stay with me now. Oh, it was right. It was right. Stay with me. We're gonna have a dance party. Get ready. We gotta wait for technology, but I promise you we're gonna have a dance party. There we go. You hear it? Somebody move your head. Let me know you can hear it. All right. Come on, get up, everybody. Dance party, everybody. Dancing makes you feel better. Thank you, Terry. I see you. Dancing makes you feel better. Movement makes you feel better. that is what I have for you today. Happy Juneteenth from Faith in Place. My hope is that you feel a little lighter, a little brighter. You found something to smile about. You shared with us what makes you smile, what makes you happy. All of those things will lead to hope if we keep them in mind as we go from day to day. Join our next monthly call, which will be on July 21st at 6:30 p.m. The registration is being placed in the chat. We will spend a little time in small groups now, but I want to ask my colleagues, does anyone else have words before we go into small groups? You will go in small groups by your region to give you a moment with your green team coach and to meet others who share your coach. Or if you don't have a green team coach, you may be in a group and you can learn more about what's happening with our green teams. Thank you all.